we are on a journey that will never end. There's no getting there. And if you spend all your days just pining for the there, like, oh, when we do this, it'll be great. Or when we get there, it'll be great. Or if we can accomplish X, it'll be great. And just spending your days, a little more in gratitude for where you are and recognizing the accomplishments you've made and being grateful to those who helped it happen. It just keeps your head in a better space for the risks and the challenges of running your own organization.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I am so excited to bring you our special guest today, Julie Strong. But before I introduce you to Julie, I have a quote for you by Charles Connolly. Questions focus our thinking. Ask empowering questions like, what's good about this? What's not perfect about it yet? What am I going to do next time? How can I do this and have fun doing it? The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Julie, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
I am.
Thank you very much for coming on the show today, Julie.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Julie Strong is the CEO of C1S Group, a leading construction and engineering firm based in Dallas, Texas. Julie has more than 19 years of experience in the mechanical design and the construction industry. She is responsible for finance, business administration, and human resources, and she has managed construction projects across a wide variety of market segments, demonstrating success on over $25 million of projects from initial estimate through design, construction, and commissioning. Under Julie's leadership, C1S has been named in the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies for 4 consecutive years and has been named in the Dallas 100 list of fastest growing private companies. The company has also been named among the 50 best places to work by Inc. magazine and has been part of Outside magazine's list of best places to work since 2013. Julie is a graduate of the University of Texas in Austin and received her Master's of Business Administration from the University of Texas at Dallas. Julie, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, we are an engineering construction company based out of Dallas, Texas. My husband and I run this company, have for 16 years. We have 2 boys, 11 and 13, that run us around outside the office. But while we're here, we work on designing and building solutions for industrial manufacturing facilities. We focus on sort of Fortune 1000. We do all existing building, which is sort of different for construction companies. A lot of them do ground up new construction, and all of our work actually exists pretty much inside existing buildings. And so that's a little bit of the niche we've carved for ourselves. We do most of our work right here in Texas, but we do have some clients that we travel around the U.S. for. That's probably our next growth frontier, is expanding that direction. We've got about 33 people, been in business, like I said, 16 years, do about $25 million in revenue annually.
How did you get into the engineering construction industry?
My husband is a mechanical engineer, and I actually spent 10 years doing construction project management. That's actually where we met, on a job site, in a job site trailer. It was super romantic. Mm-hmm. So he spent 10 to 15 years actually running projects and designing buildings for clients, and I spent about 10 years actually building those buildings. All different kinds of buildings, but lots of technical environments and clean rooms. So between the two of us, that's really sort of the background we have, sort of in-depth experience in. And that's from our experience with larger companies. We thought, well, maybe we should take a stab at running our own.
So did the business come first or the marriage?
Marriage. Mm-hmm. Marriage first, and then he's got such an entrepreneurial spirit and was always wanting to run his own company. He was going to have car washes for a while, but he changed gears and wanted to have an engineering business, and we actually started just as purely engineering. I really wasn't a part of it until we started adding the construction to it, and that's really my strength. And then, it's grown from one person and about, almost no revenue. Thankfully, at that time, I still had a full-time job. And then now, 30 people and 25 million.
What's the secret to working with your husband? Because it doesn't always work for everybody, this, does it? There's definitely a knack to doing it right.
Well, that's such a good question. I don't know that we have the secret. Some days feel better than others, that's for sure. I think part of what works for us is that we have different strengths and we work in different parts of the organization. So he does a lot of strategy, sales, a lot of the technical engineering, and I work more on operations, the HR side, the recruiting, culture. So I sort of stay on or in the business from an operations side, and he really works on the business from the outside in, more client focused. So we bump into each other on occasion. We certainly spend 23 hours a day together because we're always in the same places. But actually what our expertise is that we bring to the organization comes from different sides.
What do you enjoy most about what you do?
I think what I enjoy most is really, for us, I grew up around sort of a culture of servant leadership. And so for me, I feel like my job here is to serve and support all the people that do what we do. I mean, support the activities that serve our clients. I worked in this industry for 10 years. I know what they do out there day in, day out. I know the struggles they have. I know how difficult it can be. And so for me, my job is to make sure they have what they need to be great at their jobs. Everybody wants to be great at their job and feel successful and productive and valuable, and that I get to sort of knock down roadblocks in-house, whether that's getting them resources or getting them people or getting processes in place. From my position, that's what I love most about what I get to do.
And what drives you to do what you do?
Well, our business is just people. I mean, we don't sell any product. We're a service organization. And so we've got great people, professionals in both the construction and the engineering side of the house that have chosen to spend their professional career at C1S. And so my job is to make sure that C1S rewards them and supports them and makes this a great place where they can experience growth and challenge and success. I feel compelled to kind of give back to them in that way. I mean, they give so much. Everybody in our organization, we work like most places, especially small organizations. Everywhere wears multiple hats, and there's just a high level of commitment and accountability. And I think they need to feel that someone's kind of got their back and supports them, not someone sort of beating on them from the top down. So that's sort of what drives me in my service to them.
And how do you relax when you're not working in your business?
Well, We have two young boys that keep us really busy, but we like to travel. We like to do, some interesting, fun sort of adventure travel. I'm a runner. I do some yoga. When you have young kids, there's not tons of relaxing anyways. You leave here to go run around somewhere else, but it's fun. It's a different kind of running, so it's fun. I think relaxing maybe comes in my next phase.
For a lot of people, when they finish working, they go home and there's separation between their work life and their home life. Even if they're an entrepreneur, there's an element of separation, although for a lot of entrepreneurs, it sort of merges together. But obviously, you're working with your husband, so when you go home, he goes home with you, so you're always together. How do you make sure that you try to create that environment that makes you more so you're not always in that sort of work mode?
Yeah. We have to be really intentional about it, and we don't get it right all the time. Sometimes stuff is just too big to not talk about, and our kids hear plenty of it. And I hope what they get from that is that Matt and I care a lot about this company and our people. I think that's what they hear most about. It's not about outside stuff. It's about inside stuff that we're talking about. So, but again, you just have to be really intentional. And for us, we really have to leave town together. Our go-to place is Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so for us, we really have to have a change of scenery. I mean, just we live 2 miles from our office. It's too easy. It's just the proximity keeps it all so top of mind all the time. And so a change of scenery for us is really important. And we make a point to get away several times a year. Just the two of us, certainly the four of us do more travel. And those times are much easier to unplug because we're really sort of engaged in something pretty adventurous. But for the two of us, just to be married people and realize, I married you before we were business partners, and kind of get back to that and reconnect on that level. We really have to be intentional and get a change of scenery.
Because it's important to do that, isn't it? Because otherwise it just does, it can get too intense, I guess, with the wrong stuff.
Yeah, the downside can go so down, right? I mean, the company and the marriage and the family, it's all sort of bundled up in there together. So keeping it all going in the right direction is super important to both of us.
Do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
I do. My dad ran a wonderful company called TD Industries that he actually took over after his grandfather, who started it, after his father, my grandfather. So, I worked there for 10 years, and it was a much bigger company, but I watched them make decisions. And I watched some of them bear fruit and be great. And I watched some of them turn out not to be so great, and they had to kind of back up and recalibrate or abandon. And for me, just recognizing that really, really smart people, all they do is keep taking the next best step that they know of with the information they have, and not just get paralyzed by what might go wrong or it could or what if. To be entrepreneurial, you kind of have to have pretty thick skin and be willing to take some risk in some ways, whatever your risk threshold is. And so for me to grow up watching him do that and really navigate some difficult times, but stick with it, that to me has been, a really fundamental eyewitness account of what it takes to kind of be an entrepreneur.
Julie, what I'd like you to do now is to cast your mind back to the time before you were an entrepreneur, because I'm going to ask you some questions about that now. What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Gosh, all startups, or I don't know, maybe not all of them, but ours was really, we were small. It was stressful and uncomfortable. There was very little work. Thankfully I had a paycheck for a while, but when I committed to it too, both of us had all our eggs in one basket. That was very scary for us as a family. We have two small kids. The risk was just higher then. And we were sort of in a place where, if we didn't get this thing going, it's going to be a pretty big change to get back to what we did before. So we just spent a lot of time in sort of some fearful what if and a lot of scarcity mentality back then. I look back on it now and it's sort of my badge of courage that we survived it and that we stuck with it. But just not getting, just having thicker skin and not being afraid, because it gets really scary.
Did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
Yeah. Ironically, well, not ironically, he started it, and then 2 weeks later, 9/11 happened here. So everything just sort of froze. And it was sort of a point where we thought for a minute, hey, maybe you should go back and just go get that job back, because there was just no work in our industry. People stopped spending. People, nobody knew what to do. It was really a strange time. And so for us, yeah, we had plenty of doubt. I say mostly me. He had a lot more confidence than I did. And we just started really small. He was the only one on the payroll, and he was a one-stop shop. And so the risk at that point was a little bit lower when he first started. But it's a scary first step to leave a paycheck that you could take forever to go into sort of that financial unknown and risk, your reputation maybe a little bit.
At that time, did you envisage the business you've got today?
No. I think when we started it, the name of the company is C1S Group, and C1S came from Class 1 Solutions. That's what it used to be called. And back in the day, 2001, Matt's specialty was building clean rooms for semiconductor companies. And he thought that was what he was going to do. We were just going to make our living building clean rooms all over the world. And I think his first business plan had us doing like $40 million worth of work. 16 years later, we're doing 25 million and we feel great about it. But I think we just don't have a sense of what it takes, and the kind of trust in the relationship and the credibility in the industry as a business, what it takes to really build that up. So there was a lot of reality checking in that first year and first couple years. And I think we didn't have a good definition of what we wanted to be. In fact, we used to jokingly call ourselves AFAB, which stood for anything for a buck. We would do residential, we did a tanning salon, we did convenience store, we did some clean rooms, we did a variety of things, but we didn't really know what we wanted to be when we grew up, and we didn't have the bandwidth to say no, so we said yes to everything. So it took us a while to kind of find our footing and find our path.
And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
I think one of the big mistakes we made early on was we just got real busy being busy. And, like many startups, we were happy just to pay the bills. We didn't really invest in, being a part of our professional community. We didn't invest in training and development for ourselves. We didn't network very much. We didn't have marketing. We just didn't. We just stayed really small and had that scarcity mindset that kind of kept us small. And when you're small, it just stays so hard for so long. There's no grease in the wheels. So we finally got to a place where there was enough income that someone sort of encouraged us to kind of put our big kid pants on and invest in some of those things and build a budget that said we were going to spend, XYZ% of our revenue on those sort of intangibles. And once we did, the leverage was there, the payback was there, but it was scary to take that step. And, I think we held ourselves back by being sort of penny wise and pound foolish for a while. And it's easy to do when you don't have a lot of pennies, but I wish we'd done those things sooner.
What are some of the things that you did before you started your business that will be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
I think one of our strengths has been that we just have really tangible knowledge and experience in what we actually do in the service we provide. Matt and I both worked on job sites for 10 to 15 years. Hard hats, safety glasses, walking dirty job sites, talking with skilled tradespeople, talking with the superintendents. I mean, it's those folks that actually build the buildings. They're the ones that turn the drawings into a 3D structure that people, work and live in. So getting to know actually what it takes to make it all happen was critical to us being able to build an organization of people who could do that, and to be able to scale it at all and to understand what this thing takes and the risks. So for us, that real tangible boots on the ground experience was important to us. We look back on that experience a lot, and still, that's been a big driver for us. I think the other thing is to really sort of understand what you're signing up for. I mean, that adage of if it was easy, everybody would do it, I think sort of plays in here. People sometimes mistakenly think that, you own your own company, you guys, make a ton of money and you have tons of flexibility. It must be so great. And in reality, for us, we're the first ones to get a pay cut when things get lean. We're the first ones to stay awake at night worrying about the bigger issues. And pull an all-nighter because you've been in meetings all day, but you still have a deadline tomorrow and it's got to get out the door. Otherwise, that's your credibility and your reputation. So that's not to say folks in our organization don't feel that level of commitment. They certainly do. But when you're going to bite this thing off, just know what you're biting off. It's not as sexy or glamorous as it might look. And when those realities hit you, if you know this going in, you're more likely to stay the course and say, yep, I signed up for this. I knew this was coming. You got to take the good with the bad. So I just got to keep my head down and keep going.
Julie, you've told us a little bit about your personal life and you've talked about your business and we've talked about the time before you were an entrepreneur. What I'd like to do now is just move on along the entrepreneurial journey and talk about that. So do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
But I think the culture really comes from just the way the leaders of the organization sort of carry themselves, the decisions they make, the trust they build with their folks. It's really for us, when we started, we were anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 people for about 6 years. So for us, there really wasn't a need for like a culture and a big communication piece around it. It was really a leadership that had to convey commitment and trust and respect. And then from there, as you get bigger and have more people, being able to kind of articulate your culture, being able to help visualize the kind of company you want to be and reward and recognize, some of the accomplishments along those lines, that becomes a little more important as you have more people and as you grow. And of course, leadership has to live it. We can't just say that's what it is or put it on a board of the wall. We have to walk our talk about it. So leadership always has to be carrying that torch for the culture and has to be walking in step with it. Otherwise, it just looks false and you just lose all traction and credibility. So I think it starts with leadership, especially when you're small, but leadership carries the torch when you get big and you just have to be able to visualize and articulate it to your folks and say it and recognize it often. It's sort of the foundation that we run all our all of our decision-making is through the kind of company we want to be and the culture we have. And so our culture drives who we are now, but when we were smaller, our leadership drove that sense of culture.
Did you do anything to create the culture at the beginning?
Well, we treated this place like our family because it really was our family. So for us, having a respect for, hey, life happens while you work. So when your kids have a performance, you're going to for sure go. We're not going to nickel and dime your PTO for 4 hours to go see your kids play or to eat lunch with your parents. We're not going to nickel and dime for doctor's appointments. We weren't really a butt in your seat kind of place. It was sort of a high trust, high accountability, get your job done and everything keeps moving kind of mentality. Matt's done a good job of always minding we are a work to live kind of place rather than a live to work. Everybody has a life outside of here and we need to have bandwidth when we leave to go invest in that. And when you leave work burnout, exhausted, maybe if you work in terrible hours, you don't enjoy what you do, or you're struggling with, feeling unsupported at work, you can't turn it off, some of that stuff when you get home. And so for us, being mindful of, these people that give all this time to what this company is supposed to do, making sure they know that we respect they've got a life outside of here. and that we fully expect them to keep living it and investing in, their family, their travel, their hobbies, whatever those are, staying mindful of that to the extent the business supports all that. That's really where Matt did a great job keeping his heart as we grew.
How do you make sure that you hire the right people so that they fit with the culture in your business?
So that we've worked really hard on that. It is so hard. I mean, to find people that are great at what we do technically, and then also fit sort of our core values. So we've articulated 5 core values. So when we're recruiting and hiring, really your resume speaks to your technical strength, and your references will speak to how well you actually did it. But beyond that, how are you going to do that stuff? Like, how are you going to treat this company, your colleagues, your clients, who you are, is probably the hardest part to hire for. And we use a tool called the People Analyzer. And really, we've got sort of some questions when we're in interviews or we're checking references that we ask to try to drill down on, does this person fit who we are? And we're not looking for a homogenous group of people. I mean, the representation of these core values in every individual we have looks different. But, we're looking for people to be real and honest, serve with integrity, to walk our talk, right? Be dependable, make realistic commitments and keep them, be good for it, be resourceful, make it happen, work hard, play hard, and be self-propelled. We need, in a small organization, we don't have time to be pushing people along. We've got to all have our own personal drive inside of us for what we do. Whatever your job is, we need you to be driving towards doing it every day. So we target those values in our recruiting process to try to make sure, people are giving us answers that indicate they get who we are and they want to be a part of this. And the truth of the matter is, after about 90 days, 6 months, if they're not, they'll be kind of repelled by it. It won't feel good to them. They'll be uncomfortable, and or we'll feel it, and we'll start the process of trying to find, either a better fit within the organization or helping them move on to their next home.
Knowing what you know now, is there anything that, if you'd known it when you started out, that would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
I think for us, it took us a long time, like I said, to figure out who we wanted to be when we grew up. And so we tried to be all things to all people. If it was construction or engineering, we would just kind of agree to do it. And some of that was out of necessity, just to make payroll. But after a while, it gave us sort of a sense of being unfocused. And when people asked, can you do that? We would just say yes to everything, which is really not a trust builder. I mean, nobody can do everything. And so for us, we really had to figure out, if you sort of visualize that Venn diagram, figuring out, where our expertise and our passion and our opportunities all sort of intersect. We kind of call that our sweet spot. And that's really where we target our opportunities. That's where we focus. That's where we build our technical strength. That's the kind of people we recruit. That's the kind of jobs we pursue. And it took us a while to identify it because it felt very limiting. But once we identified it, it really was expansive to say, oh, if we do that, then we could do this and this and this and this. And it really opened up our opportunities, and it focused us and allowed us to get really good at it. And now we're sort of seen as the industry leader of, working in the existing built space. And it's not an area where a lot of people like, it's a mess. Buildings that have been in existence for 50 years got stuff in them and stuff wrong with them. And we sort of say that's our favorite playground. It's like a, Rubik's Cube to go solve that problem for that client. And that's sort of where we found our sweet spot, where our folks are great at it and there's a need for it, and we like doing it.
How much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
I think for us, really our core values are so sort of ingrained in who we are, and they're the filter that we run all our decisions through, that it may feel like gut feel, but we can always sort of drive it back to, that doesn't feel like we're being it feels like we're being disingenuous, and therefore this is not the right way to pursue that. Or for any particular opportunity, we can run it through our core values and see if it's a fit for us, and not fit like we get to cherry pick all our jobs. Some are better than others, some are harder than others, but the gut feel, there's some of it, but it really, I think almost always we tie it back to, is this who we say we are and who we want to be? And if it is, then we feel pretty confident in proceeding with our decisions.
What makes you uncomfortable as an entrepreneur?
I tend to be a little more risk averse than my husband. And so uncomfortable for me is when he comes at us with some new idea he has about taking on some venture, and it's really outside of what we've what I feel like we've established is our sweet spot. And the answer is, Julie, we can't be stagnant. We have to keep moving. We don't get to cherry pick, and there won't always be opportunities in this one basket that we know we're great at. And so stretching a little bit to me sometimes is really uncomfortable. It's not something, like I said, I'm risk averse. That being said, we have enough history to look back on and see the times where the stretch has been the right thing to do. And so that's what I end up, sort of holding on to, is looking back and saying, hey, when we put our mind to something, we commit to something, we make careful decisions, and we keep putting our best foot forward, generally speaking, it works out. But the first introduction of those new things makes me uncomfortable.
How does the difference in your risk tolerance, with you being more risk averse than your husband, how does that work for you?
Well, I think it's, I'd love to say it's just that beautiful symbiotic yin and yang thing, but it's, it hurts more than that some days. Some days when we just see eye to eye and we're on the same page, that feels great, but I wouldn't feel challenged, or we wouldn't be where we are if I didn't sort of trust a little bit more. And thank goodness we are in sort of a high trust relationship. So it just comes down to trust. He gets to trust me on some operational and some HR stuff. And, as I've moved through my career, certainly we both made tons of mistakes. We both make less than we used to. And so for that, we can lean on each other and depend on each other and trust each other. So I think that's been an important part of sort of dealing with the uncomfortableness of our risk tolerances.
But in terms of making a decision, I mean, presumably it means that there's going to be probably more debate about a big decision because you're not necessarily going to both agree on it. But it also means at the same time you're going to spend more time thinking about that decision, which can be a good thing. But you're going to take longer to make a decision, which could be a bad thing because you could miss an opportunity.
Right. And we have, and I'll say this too, there are two other people on our leadership team who, we are pretty collaborative in our decision making. I mean, it's not, we're not always looking for consensus because then nothing ever happens. But there are times where we just get stuck belaboring some issue that we don't even have the decision anymore. We missed our opportunity. We are cognizant of it, and we try to get better at that. And I try also to just say, hey, what's the worst that could happen? And if I can handle probably the worst that can happen from most of it, I recognize that I can be the brake, and I try to let other people speak more than I speak, and I just try to listen more. That's hard for me because I'm a bit of a talker. But I respect the folks I work with enough to know by now that they're as committed to the success of this organization as anybody, and I certainly don't have all the answers. So my sitting back and not playing lead in some cases helps us actually move through things that otherwise we could get stuck in.
What do you think are some of the secrets to success?
I think one, not having a bunch of yes men around you. You've got to surround yourself with smart, committed people who probably think different. And so we've done that pretty well. And then for us, it's been about trying to enjoy this process because, one of my quotes that I lean on all the time is we are on a journey that will never end. There's no getting there. And if you spend all your days just pining for the there, like, oh, when we do this, it'll be great. Or when we get there, it'll be great. Or if we can accomplish X, it'll be great. And just spending your days, a little more in gratitude for where you are and recognizing accomplishments you've made and being grateful to those who helped it happen. It just keeps your head in a better space for the risks and the challenges of running your own organization. And you really can beat yourself up and you can really get way too serious and have very little fun in something you're going to spend a whole lot of time in. And at the end of the day, we didn't start this to grind away our professional careers being miserable, so you got to figure out, how to have fun along the way.
Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And many people say that the only constant in life is change. Julie, how do you try to keep up with change?
We talk to a lot of people. So we're several folks on our leadership team are in peer groups. So we try work in peer groups, whether within our industry or just peers at our leadership level, to get ideas and listen to the problems they're having and share ours and get their insight. We work real hard at staying connected to our community, our industry community in particular, so that we know what's going on in our little slice of the world of service delivery. We are grateful. We've got tons of young folks here who are really connected and keep their eye on the prize with regards to all kinds of trends, social trends, work trends, business practices. And they keep me on my toes in terms of, hey, could we work from home? Well, okay, let's see how that would work, And so we just have your ears open and be willing to listen a little bit. We all have had we've all made enough mistakes that we've got a fair amount of humility. We know we don't know it all. And so always being willing to ask and listen helps us stay open to all the change that's coming around us.
What is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Wow. All right. For me, for entrepreneurialism, the one that's been greatest for our organization and for me in particular, just given me comfort, is a book called Traction. So it's called Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, and it's an EOS, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And so for me, who's a little more operational minded, who's a little more risk averse, this has given us a structure and an architecture to operate as leaders in a small company. So for me, it's just given us a little bit of a playbook. It's like, parenting. You don't get a book on how to do that, right? You just hope you do it right. Well, there's a gajillion books on how to run a company and which one's the right one for you. And this one's been great for us. It's really it's given us, some processes. It's given us a format for resolving issues. It's given us a common language to talk about stuff. So for that, Traction has been huge in moving our organization from about, 10 people and $7 million to 30 people and $25 million, and plenty of scalability from here on up, which we're grateful for. So on a personal level, Viktor Frankl's book, A Man's Search for Meaning, that's just given me, sort of a really high level view of kind of what I want my life to be about. And at the end of the day, week, month, year, at the end of my life, what I hope is meaningful about my life, I can do something about that now while I'm living it, and not just in wishful thinking when it's over. Those two really stand out to me.
Folks, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Julie, we're now going to speculate about the future a little bit. What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
I think we would more quickly take on riskier work, bigger work, out of state work, maybe even out of the country work. We have clients who have asked us to do things that, like I said, we belabor the decision and weigh the risks and rewards for so long that we've just missed out on the opportunity and don't know what might have come from that. So I think we would take on, riskier work.
What skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
Crystal ball reading would be good. But I think for us, hiring the right folks and hiring them faster, being able to be decisive, get them in here, get them engaged, but just finding them and hiring them. Gosh, that process for us takes so long because we're so careful with it. If we could get really good at that's what drives our business, is having people to do it.
And what about for you?
For me, sheesh.
I mean, if we could figure out this crystal ball thing, we could make a fortune out of it, but I don't think we're going to do that one. So what about something you could actually do?
If I could communicate difficult things more clearly. I mean, I've known people who just really have a velvet hammer, who can fire you and you're thankful for them and you love them still. Sometimes we don't have hard conversations and it allows us to stay in confusion a little bit longer. People are unclear about what their goal is or what their role is. People are unclear about where the company is going because we've not sealed off an opportunity, or we've opened a door to something but not really walked through it. If I could be a better communicator about difficult things that impact people personally, their work, I think we could move through our confusion quicker. And even in a small organization, there could still be plenty of confusion in the right hand not knowing what the left hand's doing because we're scared to commit to a train of thought, or we're scared to commit to a decision, or we don't want to hurt someone's feelings or piss someone off. So we just don't address it. If I could be better at that, I think that would help us a ton.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
Oh, gosh, I think I'd just like them to say they run a smart organization. They put their people first. They do what they say they'll do. For us, I want us, whatever size we are, to still be holding on to our core values because they won't change over time. They really are just who we are. I want people to say they enjoyed working with us, whether it was one project or a long relationship, that they enjoyed working with us. Life's too short to not like what you do and who you do it with. And so I want to be a place that, both internally and to our external clients and partners in the industry, that they enjoyed working with C1S.
It's now time for 3 golden nuggets. Julie, what is your favourite quote and how have you applied it?
So my favorite quote is, "We are on a journey that will never end." And that one is just from my dad, but it's in the newspaper, so it's a real quote. You can give it some credibility there. But just for me, I mean, it sounds like that would make you feel hopeless, but it also just helps remind me of my perspective. of where we are on our journey, but that we're just on a journey. And there's, like I said, there's no getting there. This thing should go on after I'm gone, or the people here that we invest in and pour in and learn so much and do so many things here, they go on and do something else somewhere else. But that this is just part of the journey and to enjoy the ride. The other one is, we have it on our fridge here in the office, is to laugh often and much, that quote. And so, we have grand plans for doing great things and changing the industry and being a leader and all that. But if you can, change the life of a child or improve the world with a garden patch or whatever small way you could make a difference, that is to live well. That's, we've got to keep our eye on those little things too.
Do you have any favorite online resources you can share with us that'd be useful for other entrepreneurs?
I think the Harvard Business Review, they have really well-written pieces. They're always very timely. They're current. They're data-driven. They're not fluffy, but they're well-written in layman's terms to where you don't have to be a technical expert on whatever it is. For me, I've gotten a lot of valuable insight from that that I find helps us on the HR perspective in particular, but also from an operational position or from business trends. I think the Harvard Business Review does a great job.
What is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
Find a way to enjoy it. It's if it was easy, everybody would do it. So it's going to be hard, but you got to find a way to enjoy it. And sometimes you have to be real intentional about, what you're feeling good about, because some days you don't feel very good about some stuff. And other days, you're just on top of the world. But between those peaks and valleys, you got to find a way to really enjoy what you're doing, because that'll translate to the people you work with. It'll translate to your clients. Nobody likes to work with, some grumpy, stressed out leader. It's just not very inspiring. So for yourself and for everybody around you, find a way to enjoy it.
Folks, if you didn't manage to get a note of Julie's favourite resource or her favourite books, you can find the links on Julie's show notes page. Just go to the entrepreneurway.com and search for Julie or Julie Strong in the search box. Julie, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
Neil, no, I think we've kind of, I'm sort of out of words. Thanks.
Julie, well, you said that you talk a lot, so for you to be out of words, you've done very well.
My husband should grab this opportunity.
It really has been an honour having you on the show today. Thank you for coming on and telling us about your business, C1S, and sharing something about the engineering construction business and your entrepreneurial journey. But beyond that, you've also shared some of your experience and what you've learned as an entrepreneur from just that process of developing and growing your business. You've given lots of great advice and tips. So thank you very much for coming on the show today, Julie.